What are you boycotting till the day you die? I used to live in an apartment next door to a pizza place. Pizza was decent, so I went there at least once a week. There was a woman who worked there who usually wasn't the most friendly, but I never really had any issue. I wasn't the chatty type, but I was a regular, so I'm pretty sure all the employees recognized me. One time though, I walk in and it's her and another employee working there. The woman is in back, so I order my usual 2 slices with the other employee, who puts them in the oven, and stand by the counter watching TV to wait. A minute later the woman comes in on the phone and asks me, "Did you order?" And I said, "Yeah, I just got the 2 slices." For some reason she assumed the other employee hadn't done anything, so she puts 2 more slices in the oven. I wasn't really paying attention, so I didn't think anything of it. A minute later the other employee walks back in, takes the 2 slices she put in for me and boxes them up. That's when the woman realizes what happened. I still didn't realize, and completely loses her shit at me. She starts screaming, "Why didn't you say your slices were already in? Now I just wasted these." And dramatically dumps them in the trash. "What's wrong with you?" The whole place just goes dead silent and everyone is staring at me. I'm just standing there bewildered and trying to make sense of what just happened, so I just blurt out sorry and walk out. As the shock wore off and I replayed the events in my head, realizing I didn't really do anything wrong, or at worst was just an honest misunderstanding, I got pretty upset that I got yelled at like a child, especially after being a regular for years. At that moment I decided I'm never stepping foot in that pizza place again, and I didn't. I lived next to it for another 3 years and not once went in or even ordered from it. Lifetime Fitness. It really pains me to write this, because I really love their gyms. I had a membership at Lifetime on and off through college. I went to a very large university with great amenities, so I didn't need the membership during the school year. I tried to cancel at the end of one summer. I was at the gym one day and I asked about cancellation. I was told to come back at a certain time frame the following Wednesday to cancel. I complied. When I showed up, the person doing the cancellations wasn't there. I was told to return the following Wednesday. Surprise, surprise, the person wasn't there again. I told them I was going to stop the payment through the credit card company. They responded by telling me that they'd take me to collections then. I ended up escalating through their corporate offices to get the membership canceled. They managed to get 2 extra months of fees out of me. After that year of college, I shifted over to LA Fitness, and maintained that membership for about 10 years. When I moved away from LA Fitness, I joined the YMCA, where I've been for the last 5 to 6 years. I will always have a gym membership, but I am committed to not joining a Lifetime Fitness again until I'm reimbursed. It's really a loss for both of us. Harvey Norman. They have terrible customer service and they took a whole lot of Australian government money that they didn't deserve and are refusing to give it back. Once upon a time, when internet shopping was new and novel, a lot of people didn't trust it because they were afraid of providing their credit card details to the World Wide Web. It was a time when you were told don't tell anyone online your name and where you live. However, slowly people started to adopt to buying things online as they saw the convenience of being able to make purchases and get those items delivered. More websites began getting into the online shopping space and internet shopping started to gain momentum. People realized they could buy things online, and even with the currency conversion and shipping fees, it still worked out cheaper than buying in a traditional brick-and-mortar store. That's how much we were getting ripped off in Australia. The main drawback was back then there were long shipping times. Gerry Harvey, the multi-billionaire, started to whinge and complain that online shopping was hurting his business. He had it good for decades ripping off the Aussie consumer, and with the advent of internet shopping, he could see his profits start to decline. He said it's bullshit, consumers have a choice to purchase online and that there could be warranty issues or fake products or whatever crap that spewed out of his mouth. Every Christmas period he would go on television and complain if sales had decreased from the previous holiday season or if there was only a slight increase in sales. If sales were good that year, he would be happy and say spending is up. At the time, goods and services tax was exempt for online purchases from overseas as if the total was below 1K. One day Gerry Harvey, the rat bastard, decides to lobby the Australian government to reduce the threshold to $300 and says Australian businesses can compete with overseas retailers. Somehow buying an item online, paying currency conversion fees and international shipping still ends up cheaper, yet Australian consumers aren't being ripped off. There's much public backlash to the fuckwit Gerry Harvey's proposal. Politicians scrap the idea. Gerry complains and whinges and whines. Years later he lobbies the government again. However, this time not to reduce the threshold to $300, but he wants all purchases from overseas to be liable for the GST. Somehow, this passes. Not sure how many bribes he had to make in order to have that happen, But there you go. This is the same dickhead that told everyone to spend their $900 GFC stimulus money on plasma screens in his stores. Every time that you make a purchase online from overseas and it's more expensive by 10%, you can thank your multi-billionaire friend, Jerry Harvey. How much more money does the greedy piece of shit want? I will never buy anything from a Harvey Norman store ever again. I know people that pay more for an item to avoid buying from there. I probably wouldn't piss on Jerry Harvey if he was on fire. Fuck State Farm. First, when I was much younger, I used to have them for car insurance. I had full coverage, uninsured, you name it. Well, one day I was hit head-on by a daughter who lived with her mother who was driving her mother's car. But the mother had lied to her insurance company stating that she had no one living with her who drove her car, which was obviously false. So her insurance company dropped her. State Farm was a fucking nightmare on all accounts. For years, I'm talking at least 3 years after this accident that I was not at fault for, I called SF twice a week asking about status of my claim, when was an adjuster going to come out, when would my car be fixed, etc. I was being nice, yelling and screaming, going to my agent's office, calling every 800 number, contacting the state insurance regulator, everything you could think of to get this bullshit over with and my car back to normal, and I could not get them to give me a solid answer about an accident that was not my fault. Finally, after years of this maddening bullshit, without any notice whatsoever, an adjuster who seriously could not give a fuck shows up at my job, looks at my busted car for 5 minutes, and writes me a piddly check, minus my deductible, and rolls out. Years later, I get a $500 check in the mail for my deductible. They apparently sued the other driver/her mother, to get the money back. I mean, nice, but they could have given that to me and then sued to collect the loss. Absolutely worse experience dealing with a company. And I've had to deal with some doozies. Second, my now ex worked at SF. Asshole. So fuck State Farm. Yelp. They are horrible to small businesses and require them to pay a fortune for ads to bury any negative reviews. If the business doesn't spend on ads, they bury the positive reviews. Yelp also seems to attract the worst critics. Same. I had a disgruntled employee post a review 4 months after I fired him and made it sound like a real review. This was actually really upsetting for me because the whole reason I fired him was because in one 15-minute instance he called a customer a bitch, threatened to break another co-worker's arm, then tried to get into a fist fight, so I had to physically retrain him and literally dragged him by the collar outside the restaurant in the middle of service, locked the door, and then I called the cops. He harassed me for 3 days, sending up to 400 texts a day insulting me, calling me names, threatening to tell his high-powered friends and his lawyer about how he was unjustly fired. I cried for weeks about it because I was legitimately scared. I was 25 and this guy was 43. And then he posted on Yelp, and not only did my bosses not care about it, they just dismissed it as "don't let it get under your skin" like, "Sir, I was scared for my life but whatever." Yelp just refused to take it down. It's still up to this day, 5 years later. Fuck Yelp forever. Former manager of the doggy daycare/hotel here. The store I worked at, the GM literally did not give a shit if animals died if it saved him money. There are pages I could write about, but here are 2 specific examples. Reminder, these are customers' pets, these are your pets, not just some pets we had up for adoption. This is your pet that you left at PetSmart to be taken care of while you were at work or on vacation. The paint in one of the doggy playrooms was peeling and dogs were eating it. Manager's solution was put a toy on top of it so they just play with the toy instead. Surprise, dogs can move toys to continue eating paint. It was never fixed no matter how many times I brought it up. Nobody, not even the other employees, cared about the cats. If I wasn't working, the cats straight up didn't get fed. My final straw for quitting was when the GM told me to clock out and go home before I could give the cats their meds because he wasn't paying overtime. When I explained I still had to give the cats their meds, he said just write that you gave it to them, they'll be fine. I'm not paying overtime. I told him I'm not going to let someone's cat literally die because you are too cheap to pay overtime. So here is what is going to happen. I will give them their meds, and then I will sign it off. And then I will clock out. And if it is overtime, you will pay it. He got pissed off at that response, so I took everything that happened, there was a lot more than all of this, and I had pictures and timestamps for everything, and filed a big report to PetSmart's corporate whistleblower line. Corporate responded, "We looked into this," and then that was it. So clearly they didn't give a shit, so I quit the same day I got that response. I don't boycott them though. I do worse. There is a toy my cats love to death, more than any other toy, but it is so poorly made that it breaks after a month. It is only sold at PetSmart. So every time it breaks, I take advantage of PetSmart's no receipt return policy and exchange it every time. So my cats get their toy, and PetSmart doesn't just not get my money, I'm actually costing them money.